next year's a year where we're going to hit 75 to 80,000 ounces. But again, on that life of mine, it's averaging 60,000. So, I'm very, very confident we'll get to those numbers next year.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Shawn Khunkhun, President and Director of Contango Silver and Gold. Shawn, very good to speak with you. For new investors, could you give us a quick overview of Contango's portfolio, what you're producing today, what you're developing, and why Alaska and British Columbia are such attractive jurisdictions?
Yeah, I just want to start off by saying thank you for having me on. I'm grateful to be here this morning. So Contango Silver and Gold is an emerging mid-tier silver and gold producer in Alaska and British Columbia. We've got some exceptional assets. They're high grade. They're close to infrastructure. We've got the Manh Choh mine that's in production that's generating about $100 million a year of free cash flow. The company has about $100 million in the treasury. The real value, though, is in our development pipeline. We've got some very, very high grade projects, the Kitsault Valley, Johnson Tract, that are high grade, long mine life, and again, have the qualities that make them amenable to our direct shipping ore model. So that is grade, proximity to infrastructure, straightforward permitting. And so, we've got communities on side from Alaska Native corporations to the Nisga'a, our indigenous partners in British Columbia. So we've got social license, we've got grade, we've got a good team. And I think the last thing I'll mention here is when it comes to companies, companies are owned by the shareholders. And I think the fact that we've got a group of very, very foundational shareholders and institutions like Franklin Templeton, BlackRock, Fidelity, Eric Sprott. The company is in a very, very strong place.
You're out with your first quarter results this week, and it was a tough quarter for Manh Choh due to winter conditions, yet you're holding out full year guidance. What's changed in the second quarter, and what gives you confidence that production will be there in the second half?
Yeah, I think the one benefit when investors are looking at small cap producers, emerging growth companies, the biggest risk is operator risk. And I think the thing that we have that sets us apart from our peers is we have a joint venture with Kinross, which is a $40 billion company that's been producing for decades and decades. It's one of the larger cap gold companies in the sector. And so Kinross is the operator. And, we've been working with Kinross in a production standpoint since 2024, and they haven't missed on guidance. So, we're reiterating our production guidance. So this year, we're guiding 40 to 45,000 ounces, and we are maintaining our guidance this year.
Contango recently merged with Dolly Varden Silver, listed on the TSX, and also rung the bell at the NYSE. How's the integration gone, and what does the combined company offer that neither could achieve alone?
Yeah, so speaking as the former CEO of Dolly Varden and being that merged entity, the two companies coming together have a new size and scale. So pre-merger, Contango Ore had a very nice business. It had the cash flow from Manh Choh, it had the Lucky Shot mine that was coming online, it had Johnson Tract. What Dolly Varden has brought into the equation is number one, a lot of high-grade primary silver in a safe jurisdiction, and it's going to bring a silver component to the production profile. Now, if we look at the small cap producers in the gold space, at the high end, companies will trade at 1x net asset value. If we look at the silver space, they're trading at 2x NAV. So I think the opportunity by bringing in Dolly Varden is that re-rating that silver companies enjoy with that NAV multiple.
I mean, you talked about this year's production targets, but you're guiding to nearly double this year's production in 2027. What needs to go right between now and then? And what are the key milestones investors should be tracking?
So life of mine at Manh Choh is 60,000 ounces. So we did 60,000 ounces last year. This year, because we're moving from the north pit to the south pit, and just based on when some of the mining versus when some of the sales are occurring, it's so some of the sales are going to occur into Q1. So next year's a year where we're going to hit 75 to 80,000 ounces. But again, on that life of mine, it's averaging 60,000. So, I'm very, very confident we'll get to those numbers next year. But what's really interesting is the work we're doing at Lucky Shot, because Lucky Shot is a permitted, past producing high grade gold mine. And if we look out beyond 2027, where we're guiding 75 to 80,000 ounces, we're looking to bring the Lucky Shot mine online in 2028. So that's when the company's production profile goes from 60,000 ounces on average to 100 with the introduction of Lucky Shot. But the real step change for the company is when Johnson Tract and Kitsault Valley are brought into the production profile, and that's where we're guiding in 2030 200,000 ounces of gold production and 5 million ounces of silver.
As you mentioned, you're advancing Lucky Shot, Johnson Tract, and Kitsault Valley all simultaneously. Which of these assets do you think is most underappreciated by the market right now?
I think they're all underappreciated. I think what's really unique right now is, you can't rush certain aspects in business, right? You can't rush permitting in mining. So, what I really like about this company is we've got production, we've got a development pipeline, and we can do some of the boring work like permitting while we're still exploring. So I think each project demonstrates different qualities. So, for example, Manh Choh and Lucky Shot, although they're not, world-class deposits, in this price environment, they're generating enough cash flow to develop those world-class districts in Johnson Tract and the Kitsault Valley. And so I think that, they all, we need all the components to unlock the value, and they're all equally as important.
Sean, it looks like an exciting phase for the company. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Shawn Khunkhun, President and Director of Contango Silver and Gold.